Welcome to Popcorn Planet. I am Andy Signor, and some really sad news coming in online with DC Comics trending not in a good way in what is being called a bloodbath. Hundreds of DC Warner Media employees are being laid off today as Warner Media, which is AT&T, is restructuring all of its Warner Brothers roles. And so really sad losses happening right now with several people in the DC Comics world losing their jobs. A lot of people are going to be facing out there how to find new work. And this is going to affect a lot of DC things that you like. So stay tuned as we figure out more and more what's happening. But I wanted to break down why this is happening and who is now in charge and who made these decisions, so you can sort of better understand as we move forward and learn more about this story. So this is something that has been seen by the trades, that has sort of been expected just because of the world we currently live in, and obviously studios losing lots of money. We can probably expect, sadly, more of these to come forward as Disney and as Universal all begin to restructure their executives as well as their lower level executives and just lower level staff to try and save money and restructure, sort of move forward, and new priorities for streaming services, etc., that they can control. So Variety sort of was predicting this back for this Friday, that they were expecting at least 800 staffers at Warner Brothers and HBO to be part of a broad restructuring put in place by this unit's CEO, Jason Kallar. So Jason Kallar is the one who set this up. Look, it's not expected because, look, AT&T took over Warner Brothers. The question is that going to be a good thing? Is this really the right thing? I mean, AT&T has the money. They're the bigger company, and they're in charge. We've talked about this a lot because of the Snyder Cut. And I say this with love to Zack Snyder, honestly, but this Snyder Cut is such a small piece of this bigger puzzle in trying to make HBO Max, Warner Media, all of this work. So there's a lot of pressure on because Disney is seen as the most profitable studio out there, and they are already surpassing their numbers in Disney Plus. While HBO Max is not attaining the numbers they hope to. They still aren't even on Roku and Amazon devices. They're still negotiating, trying to figure out how to get onto those platforms. So that's causing them a lot of hassle to get their subscribers up. In addition to the fact that they just don't have a lot of original content right now. They're really behind the ball. Does that mean they can, they can never do better? No. I do think HBO Max as an entity has potential to be one of the greatest streaming services we have. There's a huge amount of potential there that I think they could even take out a Netflix and a Disney Plus. Netflix is currently the reigning champion, but Disney Plus is coming in close. But the problem with Disney Plus is it's just for families, right? HBO Max has families. It has Sesame Street. It has Studio Ghibli. It has Looney Tunes. There's a lot of stuff in there for kids, but it also has stuff for adults. It has HBO. It has DC. It has a lot of stuff in there that if they do it right, could really make a dent into the streaming wars. So HBO Max is one I enjoy. There's a lot of content in there. If you go just through the Warner library, a lot of old films and stuff worthy of checking out, old HBO shows, etc. That HBO Max is clearly a priority for Warner Brothers. So they've come forward and admitted this. But in order to really do that, they are starting to now make some serious cuts. So as this article sort of breaks down, they are making these moves in an attempt to focus on the new bottom line for them to make more money. But it's not been easy. AT&T took on significant debt to fuel its purchase, and the undersea so-called streaming wars have attracted many powerful entities to the fray. Comcast has launched Peacock, Viacom and Discovery they're going to be now joining forces to create a new CBS All Access. And so this is all sort of the biggest problem right now. And yeah, look, I liked American Pickle from Seth Rogen, but they need a lot of those, right? And Friends is not proving to be as big as they hoped, and they didn't even get to get their Friends reunion going. So there's a lot, and Snyder Cut they sort of clearly launched to get a lot of attention social media. So a lot of talk, but not much stuff to watch yet. But obviously that could all change. But focusing over to the comics side, there's a lot of layoffs over there that are currently happening. It's unfolding online through social media. We're seeing the effects of that. But Bleeding Cool here broke down some more of this. There's a lot more. The DC Universe is expected to go. A lot of people from that. But we are now. I want to first focus on this, which is the fact that Jason Kallar sent out a memo. This memo sort of summarizes his sort of plan and reasons for things. And so he sort of mentions, as some of you may recall, I shared 3 thoughts on my first day email. The history was filled with examples of special entrepreneurial companies that leaned into moments of great change in order to better serve customers. That our taking smart and bold risks is so important to the road ahead, and my belief that missionary companies ultimately shine, and my strong belief that ours is a team filled with missionaries. Okay, I don't fully get it, but he clearly has a plan, and he thinks they're all missionaries. But he talks about how important this goal is to become, because of the gift of the internet, we have what is believed the greatest opportunities in the history of media to deliver our beloved stories and experiences directly to hundreds of millions of customers across the globe. Earning this ambiguous future won't come easy. To do so, I believe it is vital that we change how we are organized, that we simplify, and that we act boldly and with urgency. The pandemic's economic pressures and acceleration of direct-to-consumer streaming adoption places an even higher premium on these points. To accomplish this, we are going to do the following. We are elevating HBO Max and the organization and expanding its scope globally. We are simplifying how we organize our studios. We are creating a consolidated and international unit focused on scale and efficiency. We are bringing our key commercial activities into one group to allow us to operate more strategically. We are making other structural changes that will help us operate more effectively and efficiently. So look, this makes sense. When you're AT&T and you come in, it does seem weird that there was Warner Media execs sort of, yay, Snyder Cut, and then Warner Brothers people who are like, I don't want the Snyder Cut. You got to have someone in charge to sort of make those decisions and think of the top line thing. Warner Brothers may have thought, you know what, we have this budget, this isn't worth it to us. But now with HBO Max being so important to them, which makes sense, let's be honest, I could see why they made that green light happen. Will it really be as popular as The Mandalorian or some other big spotlight show? We'll see. I'm still on the fence of whether that'll be a huge commercial hit. I understand it has a fan base. It has a large fan base. I get it. But will it have a broad commercial fan base? Or will they just see it as, I already saw that movie. I don't need to see a longer version of it. Even though the fans will say, well, no, it's the vid. We're talking to general movie-going public. Will they actually care as much as those hardcore fans? That's what's yet to be seen. So they need lots more content over there, and really Snyder Cut's the one thing most people are talking about. And honestly, that's not good enough for this to succeed. They need way more stuff, right? So organizing everything, eliminating DC All Access, that DC universe rather, makes sense. You want that content on HBO Max. You don't want to have 4 different apps: HBO Go, HBO Now, HBO, DC. No, put it all in one app. That makes sense. It's also why I'm confused why Disney Plus is still playing around with Hulu. It's like, mix those two, dude. What are you doing? Age-gate Disney Plus and make it like HBO Max. You can have both things. I don't understand what they're waiting on. And I wonder if in time they'll finally understand that and do it. But for HBO and Warner Brothers to sort of realize that, I understand the need and sort of corporate idea of we got to just merge all these better and have a clear, structure of who's in charge. Got it. Okay. But, that means they have to eliminate some redundancy. It's probably certain roles that were doing the same thing. And I've been through a merge. I've dealt with that. And I've survived a merge of 2 companies merging. And there's a lot of redundancies. So you got to go through and figure out, take some time, some painful time to figure out, well, who do we really need? Who's actually going to help? Who's aligned with our goals? Those are the types of things that clearly Kallar is figuring out right now. So they go through the sort of breakdown of who's in charge, and I'm going to talk about these 3: Jason, Andy Forseal, and Ann Sarnoff, who are now sort of the big dogs in charge of Warner Media. Under Ann, there will be other people in charge of. So Jason's now our CEO. Andy Forseal was the general manager of HBO Max, which is their most important thing. So he's basically like the number 2. And then we have Ann, who's in charge of all content, the programming groups from production, from movies to TV, across all the networks. So she's going to oversee everything. And that means then there's other people here. Casey Bloys is in charge of HBO programming, as well as taking on content for the other brands, including HBO Max and TNT, TBS, etc. And then Warner Media Production Group continues to be led by Toby Emmerich, and then Peter Roth for their TV, etc., etc. And then sort of some other changes throughout the way of what to expect. But these 3 people, I wanted to sort of focus the end of this video on that. to do all this, they did lay off a lot of DC Comics fans. You can go learn more about that, but we're still sort of learning. Jim Lee is apparently returning, but editor-in-chief Bob Harris, senior VP of publishing strategy Hank Canals, a lot of people, I don't know all these people, but a lot of really big and smaller level people over at DC are going to be out there on the breadline, which is sad. That's not something to make light of, and I see people online sort of trying to make jokes. It's not funny. It sucks. I feel for all of them. But DC Direct, the company's in-house merchandising collectibles manufacturer, also is a victim of the layoffs. It's been shuttered after 22 years. Another move was rumored when consumer products began taking a more active role in DC merchandising. So this is all, again, strangely happening 2 weeks before DC Fandome. So you could say the timing's smart because they want to get that out of the way before they celebrate and make sure they can move forward with the right staff. Or you could say the timing's terrible. Why not wait until after that? Anyway, let's talk about these people in charge. So Jason Kallar, I want to talk about him because I'm realizing I know who he is. And I'm not as impressed as I probably should be, but I'll tell you why. So Jason Kallar started Hulu. He's one of the founding CEOs of Hulu. And so, back in the day, Hulu was legit, right? Disney's own it's a serious platform. I can't deny that it was one of the first brands that really sort of realized, let's get in the streaming game and get the networks involved and become an alternate to cable. So Hulu was up there first getting that done. And because of that, it's bought him a lot of cred in the industry. And I just wonder, is it worthy? Jason Kallar did something, so he left Hulu in 2013 after 5 years. And they joined the board of directors at DreamWorks Animation, and then he started Vessel. So he would attempt to make his own Hulu, a subscription video service where he backed by investment companies a lot of money basically, and Bezos and Expedition, which is a part of Amazon. So because he took his Hulu gig. And it was sort of like, wow, what a hit. And sort of used that to sort of become the next buzzword of like, oh, the guy who made Hulu? Oh, he's making Vessel. Well, we got to, whatever that is, we got to get in on that. This is sort of how the industry works. And so he made Vessel, and I don't know if you guys even knew of or know what that is. But as a digital content member, I remember it was like this alternate to YouTube where they were paying creators like Shane Dawson and others to put their content on Vessel first. So they were basically paying for the premium to have it first. And so they were throwing money away to get these YouTube content creators to just put it up a few days earlier. And content creators like, okay, you're going to pay me? I'll do it then. No one was doing it for free, but they wanted to do it to sort of see if it could work. And it didn't work. But this idea was like early access for $3 a month or $20 annual to the account to view videos a minimum of 72 hours before the video is released to the general public. Vessel Inc. created mobile application devices which optimize the videos for mobile viewing. The idea behind the site was that creators would be able to gain more revenue from their videos than on YouTube due to the subscription fee as well as the advertisements. So this was before YouTube memberships, or I guess even before Patreon really was blowing up. So the idea was sort of there, but really poor execution. He just didn't understand that world. And I knew somebody who was working on that, and I could just tell, like, it was one of those things where you're like, oh, okay, I guess. Well, they'll get money, and that's why it succeeded, right? And to give him credit, he wisely sold it off right before he left, right as the sale happened, he left. But he sold it to Verizon Go 90. Now, I don't know if you guys don't remember Verizon Go 90, but man, that was a bomb. Verizon Go 90 wasted so much money attempting to get in the streaming wars by just sort of making, Verizon phones having a service where you could download content. And they bought original content. They were trying to become a Netflix. But they were dealing with people who were just taking the money and running. They were buying a lot of shows and then not really following through because they had so much money that they weren't really following through. Was this worth the buy? So it was an interesting failure where they dropped tons of money. And I know, I won't say who, but I know several people who got rich based off of that deal just to make content quickly. And then the craziest part of it all was they threw all this money at them, and then everybody who had the shows got to own them. So they only had like a 3 year deal where then, I forget, it was a short window, a year, and then you could basically take it wherever you want. So Verizon funded people to make exclusive content for them and then allowed them to go take it wherever they want afterwards, but then they could retain the rights. I mean, it was but everybody took advantage of that could get it. Everyone was taking meetings with Go90 like, hey, want to buy this show? Hey, we got this show. And then everyone would just skim from the budgets to pay for other things and then deliver a stupid, crappy show. Or some of them would try to do a good show. But it was a really wild, wild west time on the web where it kept a lot of .comers afloat because they were able to sort of get Verizon money to keep trying to go and build what they thought was going to be the next big thing. So anyway, he sold it to them because he was smart, like so many other people who were basically swindling Verizon. Hey, Verizon, you should totally take Vessel. That'll be because, you're struggling. Well, we got all this content. Yeah, just take Vessel, And because he knew it was going to be shut down and be a failure, so he was able to sell it to a bidder that paid, and then ultimately it just died. So it became part of Go90 and died, but then he got to say it was a win of, well, I created a new platform that sold to Verizon. And honestly, he was very lucky because Verizon was dumb. Verizon was super dumb and had so much money to waste that they didn't really care. But that was a huge failure. So you got a guy who left Hulu in its prime, didn't really create anything while he was at Hulu, created Vessel, which was a failure, and then, decided to wait off, and now he's in charge of Warner Media. I'm just a little confused by this guy. I mean, he's got a Harvard MBA. He seems smart. He clearly knows how to make these deals happen. But he's now in charge of the whole studio of Warner Brothers. I hope he proves us all wrong and does great. And, he's making some big moves. But he put his number 2, which is his buddy, Andy Forciel, who was also another Harvard MBA, was the CEO at the time. Same with him, Jason, over the CEO of Hulu. So he put one of his Hulu guys in as number 2. And this guy, he's the operating officer for Full Screen, which was like a YouTube division, was a network of YouTubers making original content, brand deals, etc., helping not even the biggest, I'll be honest, but decent sized YouTube channels, and getting enough of them to sort of create this network and sort of a millennial programming block. And then he went over to Otter Media, which became Crunchyroll, which is Crunchyroll's like anime service, and also became Rooster Teeth. And so Otter Media then got bought up by Warner Media. So that's how Andy got into this too. And maybe why he also, Kallar, who knows. But that all sort of got sucked up into Warner Media because they bought Otter Media. And so that's Otter Media. And so those are your first and number 2. And then you got your number 3, which is Ann Sarnoff. Now, I wasn't familiar with her. I had to do a little research. But she only was at Warner Brothers for the year. She started in the summer of 2019, first woman to hold a position, good for her. But she has a pretty impressive background, I'll be honest. She worked at Viacom, and she was corporate development department, and then she was the head of Nickelodeon Consumer Products, and then she got to help be a part of to create the TV channel Noggin, which was a joint between Nickelodeon and Sesame Workshop, and then she also helped create the television channel TV Land. And then she also helped on Rugrats, Blue's Clues, and then worked for VH1 as the chief operating officer in country music television, as well as launched VH1 Classic. So she's done a lot. And then she ended up jumping over to BBC Studios, where she became the president of BBC Studios America, and launched subscription TV channel, and then Planet Earth, and promoted shows like Doctor Who, Dancing with the Stars, Sherlock, Orphan Black, Killing Eve. So I'm impressed with her background from a content perspective. It's better, for sure. Of all these 3 people, she's at least made content and created channels that have been successful, multiples, over a longer period of time. So good on her, but now she's in charge of all Warner Brothers movies and shows. Now, there's people under her, and I'm sure that's a complicated deal I'm sure some of them would say, well, I don't report to her, but she oversees it. It'll be interesting to see how all that plays out. But that's now our new Warner Brothers structure. So that's the breakdown of where things are. I don't know where this will go. I hope the best. I want the best for Warner Brothers. They got a good library, and I want HBO Max to be a hit. Let's be honest. It could be really great if they can get their S together. But right now they just need more stuff. And they got to be careful of muddying the HBO label, because the HBO label stands for something, quality. And I worry now they're just spitting stuff out. And that's the biggest problem I feel like Netflix has. Netflix has quantity right now, but they don't have as much quality. And so the problem with the streaming service is HBO is always known for its quality over the quantity. And then over the years has built a good quantity of shows, using quantity a lot. But you guys get what I'm saying? Like, I know some people who are working on shows for HBO Max, and it was clear they were being cheaper and rushing things into production because they need content. And they're following that Netflix model. And I just worry, is that actually going to be helpful? or do we need good stuff? Try to find decent stuff. We shall see. But in the meanwhile, very sad day for DC Comics fans. A lot of DC artists and people working in those divisions are laid off. So hearts and goes out to them. Hopefully they'll land on their feet sooner than enough. And we will keep you posted on all that. You can go check out that, or Bleeding Cool is pretty good updates on comic related news if you want to know more about what's happening over there. Or you can always hit me up on social media to get more information. So thank you guys for tuning in. A lot of information, brain dump there for sort of following Warner Brothers. What do you guys think? Are you feeling confident of the direction with Fandome coming up? Do you think this was wiser to do before? Should they have waited after? Love all your thoughts. Either hit me up on social media or down in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to watch all the other videos and be sure to subscribe. Bam. See you guys later. Bye, everybody.